Sicilian Najdorf opening, one of the most aggressive chess opening playing with the black pieces against 1 e4. What if you are white? Well, you might be wondering how to play against Sicilian Najdorf, as you must have heard this thing that Najdorf is very complicated. If you are playing against Najdorf, then you have to study a lot of theory and this and that. Well, I agree in a way, but the thing is that you need to study the structures properly, and if you know the themes, or you can say the middle game ideas, then you can play against Sicilian Najdorf very well. And I'm going to help you with all these things with our series of videos now, because we will be looking at different opening in this series of videos related to the opening. So we have already analyzed Catalan openings through the games of Sanish Giri and Vidit Gujarati. Now we are going to discuss two games played by Sergey Karjakin in the quarterfinals of Shankland, where he knocked out his opponent by coming back each and every time he lost his game. Yes, this was a true epic match played between Karjakin and Sam Shankland. And in their match, okay, Sicilian Najdorf opening was employed two times by Shankland, and Karjakin managed to demolish that opening with his sixth move h3 variation. Well, we are going to look at those things, but before we go further, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you are new here, because we are going to have series of opening videos now which will be helpful for everyone. So here we go. Here Karjakin was white. He started with e4, then Shankland played c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c4, c into d4, knight into d4, knight f6, knight c3 and a6. This is the starting position of Sicilian Najdorf. The a6 move is not actually any kind of vestige of move. The point is like you are controlling the b5 square, so the knight on d4 or c3 or bishop on f1 cannot really come on the square b5. Another idea is like if white tries to play on this side of the board, okay, something like this, then maybe in future you can start your own counter attack on the queen side. That's why black player plays a6. It is both aggressive as well as defensive move. Okay, so here Karjakin is going to play h3. This is the system I'm going to recommend it to you, okay, because it is employed by many top players. Even Vishwanathan Anand has played it, Magnus Carlsen has played it. You can check out those games also. Here black opted for knight c6. Just to let you know, black can go for e6. This is also possible. He can even play g6 move here in this position. That is also, which eventually converted in the game also. Another idea is to play e5, which is more standard, you can say. Many black players play that thing. After that you can play knight e2, knight f3 or even knight b3. And the point is like after that you can play bishop e7 and black can go for castling. Well, there are many intricacies which are there, but I just want to tell you that these are the possibilities which are there in the game after h3. Well, in the game he opted for knight to c6, attacking the knight on d4 square. Now pay attention, okay, how Karjakin is going to play. This is very instructive. After playing h3, he plays g4. Why is he playing g4? Because he wants to grab more space on this side of the board, okay. Another thing is that he is getting ready for the offensive play on the king side. This is what your aim will be if you are going to play h3 followed by g4, okay. Now here Shankland played g6 move. Of course, he wants to develop his bishop. He could have developed it with e6 followed by bishop e7. That is also a possibility, but he opted for g6. Maybe he wants to put some pressure on this diagonal. We are going to see that thing. Here Karjakin very calmly plays bishop to e3. Always remember, in the opening phase you need to follow three opening principles. One is you need to control the center. Second point is you need to develop your pieces as quickly as possible. And the third most important factor is king safety. Never forget about your king. If it's possible, try to castle on the king side or the queen side where your pieces are there, which will be guarding your king. Okay, fair enough. Black plays knight into d4 and then queen into d4 was played in the game. This queen is eyeing towards both the sides of the board, so good idea. Bishop g7, and now here Karjakin long castles. So you can see very quickly he grabbed the center. His pieces are also developed. He long castle also, brings the rook in the game. What else do you need from the opening? And that's what you are going to play. Play simple chess, okay. Black played bishop to e6. Of course, castling was also one of the possibilities, but he plays bishop to e6, delaying the castle. And now Karjakin says like, I need to do something in the position, so he goes for f4. The idea of f4 is to play f5 and put pressure on black's bishop, okay. That's one thing. And the idea is also there that after f5, g5 will be played and then f6 will be played. and then e7 pawn will move here, and then the d6 pawn will be weakened. Okay, here black played queen a5, thinking that the pawn on a2 is being captured now and white needs to play something. Maybe white will play king to b1, which is a possibility, and then he will go for the castle and he will be okay. But Karjakin said, I'm not going to be afraid of pawn on a2. Means if you want to take that pawn in the corner of the board, take it, no issues for me. I am going to attack in the center because your king is in the center. This is very important. Okay, now he plays f5. Of course, why is he playing? Attacking the bishop. And now bishop captures on a2. The another idea which is there in this position, which he actually played, is bishop to d2. This is a very beautiful move. The idea is, of course, knight d5, and if there are exchanges, then knight c7 and the rook on a8 will be lost. Plus g5 will also be played at some point in future. But the main thing is that the d5 square is going to be under control of white. Means he's going to play knight to d5. Black said like, okay, my king should not be in the center of the board. He castles in this position, and now arrives knight to d5. The point is e7 pawn is being attacked, queen is also being attacked, and what to do? Well, here knight into d5 was played in the game, but if you don't play that move, let's suppose you play queen to d8, trying to just support the pawn on e7, then knight into f6, queen into f6, and a simple move like queen to a4, the bishop on a2 will be trapped. Yes, it doesn't look that easy that how did it happen, but that's the factor. That's true that the bishop is getting trapped with this simple move. Okay, so he decided to play knight into d5 in this position. Of course, queen c5 was also one of the possibilities, because after this capture, knight into e7, maybe you will lose a pawn here, but maybe black can go for this because knight into e4 is also a possibility. But still, I'll say the bishop on a2 will be must be feeling very, very sad in the position. Okay, in the game knight into d5 was played, then he plays bishop into a5, bishop into d4, rook into d4, and now the idea is to play b3 and trap the bishop on a2 square. Knight e3. What if I tell you that going very quickly, like playing b3 and thinking that the bishop on a2 will be trapped because you have this king b2 followed by king into a2 is actually a mistake. Here black will create his own counter play with the next move, that is rook fc8. The point is, you're attacking on c2 square, the pawn on c2 is also pinned, and the thing is that bishop into b3 is also threatened. So this bishop on a2 will actually come into the game. Here maybe you can play bishop d3, but then bishop into b3 will be played, and black is surviving in the position. Maybe I must say that he might be a little bit better also, but this was not called for. He played king to d2, getting away from the pin, and this knight is not having any squares to move around. You can see, okay, he can capture on f1, but he doesn't have any squares. So he plays knight into f1, which was forced, rook into f1, rook fc8 was played, and after b3, the bishop never came into game, and Karjakin just won the game very easily. He played rook a1, and here he speeds up. I'll not go into the details. It was very easy. We will be shifting to the next game, because rest is, as they say, matter of technique, and he won the game very easily after being one piece up in the position. And make sure that you remember this position, because this is how he actually checkmated his opponent. Okay, very soon he put it this thing, and in the game this is the checkmate. Bishop on f6 and rook d8 came up on the board, and it is going to be a checkmate. Now we are going to see the next game. What happened in the next game? Identical opening, but Karjakin was prepared something new. Okay, just wait a minute. Here in the game, again they started with e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, a6, and then h3. We have learned until this point that h3 should be played. He opted for the same opening, knight c6, g4, same thing, grabbing more center. And another idea I would like to tell you, that bishop might come to g2 square, and sometimes white castles on this side of the board if nothing is happening on the king side, if you are not able to attack. And one more thing I would like to tell you, that don't rush to play g5. In the previous game you saw that white did not go for g5. He just waited for a while. Before that he activated his pieces. So make sure that you are going to activate your pieces before going for the attack. Don't make that mistake, that going for the rash attack. Just because you are pushing some pawns doesn't mean that you are attacking in the position. Okay, you need to have your pieces in order to attack on your opponent, and that's what you should follow. g6 was played, then he plays bishop to e3, knight into d4, queen into d4, and then bishop g7. Now here in the previous game we looked at f4 was played by Karjakin. and he must have seen that okay, Shankland must have come up with something new. So before Shankland surprises him, he surprises Shankland with the next move, that is e5 move. The idea is, of course, you can capture here, try to capture here, and then queen into d8. The long castle means the castling will be broken. Here you can just long castle, the rook will come in the game, and the idea of knight a4, knight b6, attacking over here, and black will not be able to castle and he'll be in trouble. Okay, just for the sacrificing one pawn. So that's enough. That's enough compensation. Here he plays knight d7, and now the pawn on e5 is actually free. Yes, you cannot really save that pawn because there is a pin. You cannot capture over here. Well, you can play f4, but it will delay some positive something like you can capture, and then bishop into e5. Black will be pawn up without white having any compensation. So Karjakin, of course, he did not make a mistake. He was prepared for this thing. He plays long castle. He said like, okay, take my pawn, but I am going to get something more. I am going to get the piece activity. And here bishop into e5 is played, queen d2, and now bishop h6 is always a possibility. Okay, now queen a5 was played, and then he plays knight d5 as he played in the previous game. Here queen into d2, rook into d2, and the king is in the center of the board. You can go for short castle here, but going for the short castle is not a good move. Can you tell me why? You can think about it. You can pause the video also if you want and think about it and come up with the solution. You can even write down the comment, and I will get to know. So try to be a little bit more interactive. Try to think about the position and write down your solution in the comments. Okay, here of course knight into e7 is the best move. King will go somewhere, maybe king to e7 square, and now you will get the pawn on d6 also after the next move like f4. This was one of the possibilities. Or can you see something else? Well, there are other possibilities also, but I must say that the pawn on d6 will be falling, and bishop g2 is the best move. The point of bishop g2 is to put pressure on b7 square, and also one idea is there, knight into c8, rook into c8, by whichever you play, bishop into b7 is going to come up on the board, and black is kind of not that well connected here. These two bishops are aiming towards this side, and white should be better. That's why here he played king d8, stopping this knight c7 business also. Okay, now f4 move, dislodging this bishop. Bishop goes to g7 square, and once again, can you guess the move? Please write it down in the comment section, your move in this position. Well, the 16th move which he played is a very natural move. He plays bishop to g2 just by sacrificing one pawn. Okay, he has got his knight in the center of the board. The two bishops which are there, they are also very well placed in this position. Black is not able to castle in this position. His castle is broken, and other rook is also ready to come in the game, and you can already see that white is quite comfortable here. His piece activity compensates for the lost pawn, but he is having much more than that. The mating attack, or you can say the crushing attack, is might be coming on the board. Here black plays a5 because he needs to do something with the rook on a8, right? So he is trying to get that thing. He plays a4, rook to a6, and now a good move. Can you guess this move also? Please write it down in the comment section if you find this move. The 18th move is bishop f1, going for the rook here because black was planning to get his rook to b6 or c6, and then get the knight also in the center of the board, something like that. But he plays bishop f1, and the rook is trapped. So white will be getting the rook, white will be exchange up, but Karjakin did not go for the rook very quickly. He first of all developed his position slowly. Here opponent played h5, he played g5, then h4, then he played rook to e1. No need to capture the rook on c6. First of all, get your pieces. The rook is not going anywhere. See, once you know that opponent's piece is stuck somewhere, you don't need to capture it, because if you capture it, let's suppose you capture it, then you need to answer the question like, what are you going to do with the knight? If the knight goes back in this position, then maybe bishop into c3, your pawn structure will be ruined, and all those things will be happening. So no need to play it unless and until it is forced for you. So first of all, keep on developing your pieces. So he plays rook to e1, knight b8 is played, and now he plays yet another good move, that is bishop to a7. After this, the knight on b8 is being attacked. He plays e6. Now knight is being questioned. Finally, he plays bishop into c6 and knight into c6, and now he plays bishop b6 check, king d7, and now knight to e3. Of course, now the pawn on d6 is a weakness. He plays king e7, getting away from the pin over here. Bishop to c7, attacking the d6 pawn with two pieces. He plays knight d4, and it feels like, okay, black is trying to do something. The idea is to play knight to f3, and one of the pieces will be forked here, but he plays rook d3. No worries. Bishop to d7, and now yet another good move by Karjakin here. He plays the next move, that is knight to d5. Check. King comes here, and now he plays knight to f6. Rest is just matter of technique, you can say. Bishop into d6 was played. King to d8. The best part is here, okay. After bishop into f4, he played the next move, bishop e7 check, king c7, and now bishop to d8 check. King goes behind, and now what I was talking about earlier, the mirror position happens. In the previous game, bishop was on f6 and rook d8 checkmate happened. In this game, now bishop comes to the b6 square and rook d8 checkmate is going to happen. Even if you bring the bishop in between, nothing will change. Rook d8 checkmate is going to happen on the board. So in both the games, you saw like he grabbed the center very quickly. So that's what we should do in this opening. First, you play h3. This is our recommendation played by Karjakin. Play g4, then bishop to e3, and then if your opponent captures on d4, queen d4, and go for the long castle, and try to get the center as quickly as possible by playing e5, or prepare for it f4 and e5. Make sure the bishop goes to the g2 square, and don't push the pawn to g5 square. So if you follow these ideas, then definitely you will get good position in the middle game. If you get good position in the middle game, this player like Shams Ankland, who is a 2700 player, can make a mistake. Of course, your opponents can also make mistake, and you can score some good points. So follow the opening principles, play the ideas which we discussed in this video, and let me know after you play some good games in the comments that whether you won the game because of this system played by Karjakin or not. Okay, we will be meeting very soon with some interesting video related to the opening. Till that moment, take care, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click on the bell icon so that you will get all the notification. See you then. Take care. Bye bye.